There we go. So how did I get here? Now, I was raised by a single mother. And when you're in that situation as a child, that's your normal. That's what's normal to you. It's normal that men are unnecessary. That's normal. Obviously, we don't need a man, right? Because we're existing. We're still here. We're alive. Might be poor, might be on welfare. But we don't need a man. Men are unnecessary. That's the message that was given to me. Was reinforced by my mother, who had all the control, was reinforced by society, was reinforced by social workers, you name it. Society reinforced to me as a young child, men are not necessary, we don't need them. And what do fathers do? They pay their child support. You know what, your dad's a deadbeat, he didn't pay his child support. Your dad doesn't pay enough child support. If he really cared about you, he'd pay more child support. When the reality is, if she really cared, she would have allowed him to be involved, right? That's the reality. But let's go back to, as a kid, you don't know, you're just getting these messages. You know that dad is not there, and mom's always bitching about child support. That's what I knew as a child. In a single mother household, I was told, don't let anyone tell you can't do anything because you're a girl. All right, okay, well, true. There are some things that I could not do because I'm a girl, right? I'm in the Guard now, but I was in the Army. I was active duty. I was a firefighter. And let me tell you, there were some things that I could not do. It didn't hurt my feelings that I couldn't do them. Because at the time, I was 110 pounds. There's only so much I can lift. There's only so much I can do. So are there limits to what we can do as women? Yes. And if that offends you, the door is right back there. Because if you think that society needs to cater to you, because you're a woman, because you're weaker, there's probably something wrong with you. Biologically, we're different, right? But you can do anything you want. Don't let anybody tell you can't be what you want because you're a girl. Well, we're kind of facing that on the other side now, right? Men want to have babies. Don't you let anybody tell you can't have a baby because you're a man. Well, guess what? You can't have a baby because you're a man, right? So, you deserve to be treated like a queen. That's a big problem that I see. If you want to be treated like a queen, you better do things that warrant you to be treated like a queen. Because being a woman in and of itself does not confer any sort of special deference upon you. Contrary to what a lot of women think, it does not, right? If someone does not accept you the way you are, there's something wrong with them. No, there's probably something wrong with you if you feel that way. But this is the message, right, that feminism tells girls. You don't change who you are. You don't change who you are. There's something wrong with him. He doesn't appreciate how special you are. Never mind, there probably is something wrong with you, first of all, okay? We look at statistically, look at the women. Personality disorders are on the rise. Mental illness is on the rise. I've never in my life seen so many women coked up on Xanax to tolerate their life as we have right now. And I can tell you guys, I'm a divorce lawyer. I get the records. I look at everything. It's a hot mess. But they deserve to be treated like a queen for no other reason other than they're a woman and that they're this person's wife. Well, he should respect me because I'm his wife. Is that what you got? What you give him to respect? Coked up on Xanax all day? No, nobody respects that. Nobody wants that. You can do better. Girl, you can do better, right? We hear this all the time. Girls talk to their girlfriends. They talk to their family members. But he just doesn't treat me with the respect that I feel like I need, right? Like, he comes home all day, and I've been home all day, and, like, doesn't even, like, give me as much attention as I want, you know? The girlfriend's like, girl, you deserve better. You sitting at home having all of your bills paid, you sitting at home not having to worry about anything, you can do whatever you want. You can go to the gym all day. You can do whatever you want. But you're right, you deserve better. And what does that usually look like? You deserve better? How about you get divorced and you get your tail out there and get yourself a job and you pay your own bills and then you don't got time to lay around all day. You don't have time to go to the gym. But nonetheless, right, we listen to our friends. You deserve better. You deserve somebody who's going to cater to you. You deserve somebody who's going to work all day and come home and rub your feet. No, you don't deserve that. And your real friends, by the way, that wouldn't be their advice. But nonetheless, isn't that what society tells us as women? You deserve better. You can do better. Okay? And the goal is to become an independent woman. So this is what I was taught as a small child. I imagine most of you in here as well, is that You don't need a man. You don't want to rely on a man to pay your bills. So you delay relationships, right? You got to get an education. You got to get education. You have to have the means to support yourself. So you delay all these relationships that maybe you would otherwise, like biologically, want to get into. Work 2 jobs if you have to, girl, but be independent, girl, right? Girl, I'm independent. If I got to work 3 jobs, I ain't going to worry about no man to pay my bills. Okay, well, you work 3 jobs, because I'm going to go get married and have a husband, and I'm going to have a life. But you work 3 jobs, you bad self, right? So get education, delay relationships, work 2 jobs. This is what feminism looks like. Anywhere in this does it say, you got to be a good wife. You got to be a good mom. How about a decent human being? Because in my experience, feminism teaches you the opposite. So let's look at the constant indoctrination, and I'm going to blow through this because people have already gone over this, but there's television programming. Look at the television shows. Men are they're all bumbling idiots. They can't take care of kids, right? Men are referred to as babysitters in these sitcoms. Look at our commercials, right? Men in the commercials, they're an afterthought. Look at the television programming Sex and the City. What did Sex and the City tell women? You live a superficial life. Just have random, careless sex. Pay your bills. Live in a small apartment by yourself, right? But as long as you have lunch with your girlfriends, girl, you got it going on. What about those programs facilitates healthy relationships? Nothing. None.
This is Will Spencer from the Renaissance of Men, here for the New 21 report with Melissa Isaak. It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Thanks for coming to speak at the 22 convention, yes?
Oh yeah, it was great. That's the first time I think I've spoke to a group of women where they were actually receptive.
Oh wow. Did you have a title of your talk?
My title was Divorcing Feminism. So
wow.
I'm a men's rights attorney. I only represent dads, for the most part, try to. And so, well, we have women that call our office, and so people say, well, you're against, equality for moms, and we're not. But, men need a place where they can go and be completely understood, and so that's the business I've tried to build over the years.
What did you think of the women here? You said they were really receptive to what you had to say, but there's some pretty harsh truths in the message about men's rights. What was their reaction like when you shared with them some of the things that you know?
I can look out there and I can watch the women, and they were shaking their heads, and they were like, a couple women said, yes, like somebody said it, and then you say it with truth, and you say it when being assertive because it's right. And here's the thing: is I think we as women, we're biological beings, just like men are biological beings, and there's almost an imprint, I think, on our souls and on our hearts as to what we want. And biologically, I think we're created to be mothers, we're created to be wives, and we go against that. We face a lot of internal consternation, we face societal consternation, and it comes out. We're seeing it now, right? The rate of mental illness is skyrocketing, divorces are skyrocketing. Women think that they're successful because they're business women and they're educated, but they're some of the most miserable women in history. So we're seeing the consequences of that, of us going against who we are, just biologically. It's
pretty stunning, right, to get to witness that. And then I can understand it's really refreshing to sit down with women who yeah, no, I get it, and they're not going to come at you and argue with you about it.
Well, absolutely. In court, I will ask these women sometimes, what makes you the better parent? You're saying you want sole custody. What makes you the better parent? They say, well, because I gave birth to these children. You say, okay, so we've established that you have a vagina, so let's get past that. What makes you the better parent? What makes it in the best interest of your children to only see their dad 4 days a month is what you're advocating for. So you throw these truths out there. Okay, we've established that you have a vagina. Let's get over that.
We've got the plumbing.
Did you just, what did you just say? No, I just said what was true. So, we have this society has evolved into, we don't want to say anything to be offensive. Even if it's true, you can't say it if you're going to offend somebody. And of course, politics, our politicians have gotten behind that. So we're in a mess. We need to speak the truth, no matter who it offends. You need to speak the truth.
I think some people are actually, they are permitted to say things that offend people. It's just that other people aren't permitted to say things that offend people.
Well, that's true. So let's reverse that. Let's say you were an attorney in court and you said to a woman, okay, we've established that you have a vagina. Do you think you would be well received?
Probably not.
Right. So, and that's one thing I've noticed over the years too is, you know, my firm, we're a firm of women, and we feel a little more comfortable going in and attacking these feminist views, these, and I call them the feminazi views, attacking these views, because I, as a woman, I don't need to be told that I'm oppressed. I'm not oppressed. I live in America. This is one of the most privileged countries that there is, especially if you're a woman. It's a woman's world. And you go saying those things, you go against what's shoved down our throats by the media, by television programming, by education, by the field, mental health field, by the legal field. We're told that no, women are oppressed. Women still don't have equal opportunity. That's a huge lie. It's a big lie.
And so the women that you speak to here at the 22 convention, did you get a chance to talk to them outside of the conference room, like one-on-one? What were some of the things they said, if you did?
I did. Most were very receptive. There was one woman, and actually this is before I even spoke. We were coming down the elevator together, and she said, "Are you speaking today?" And I said, "I am." And she said, "Well, I just want you to know I'm already triggered by you." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, but I appreciate you still being here, feeling triggered." Okay, so I don't know, she read my bio, I don't know, but I'm already triggered her. But what I really like is that, you know, I think everybody here, most of the women here say, you know, I drank this Kool-Aid and then I woke up. And some women woke up in their 40s, some women woke up younger, where they were still young enough to have a family and sort of set aside all the superficial societal stuff that's shoved down our throats. But I see these women in a state of evolution, where there's some that are further along than others. And just yesterday, the same woman who said I triggered her tried to challenge me on a couple things. And I was very direct. I don't think she liked the directness of it, but you know, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything, right? We see what sugarcoating does. It's sort of, it kicks the can down the road. And, you know, keeps the truth from coming out. So, but the way I see these women is they're in various stages of evolution, coming out of the brainwashing that is feminism.
I'm triggered by you.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah, we're going to get through this together.
We'll get it through together.
Okay. Have you gotten the chance to interact with any of the men speakers for 21Con or 21 Patriarchs?
Yeah, so I know a lot of the speakers just from being a part of the men's rights movement over the past, 15 years or so. And these are some of the best men you'll ever meet. And, you know, I think when people criticize the men's rights movement, they'll say, well, they're just a bunch of child abusers, or just a bunch of men who don't want to pay child support, a bunch of wife beaters. But when you listen to these men speak, they're some of the most educated, well-versed, experienced men, where you can ask them any question and you're going to get an amazing answer. So this has nothing to do with oppression of women. This has nothing to do with trying to be above a woman. It has nothing to do with that. This is about being able to be who you are as a man, express your masculinity, because the only toxic masculinity, or the worst type of toxic masculinity, is the absence of masculinity.
Absolutely.
And by the way, women don't want a man who's not masculine. They can say whatever they want to say. Women don't want a man that's submissive to them. They don't respect that. Women don't want to have sex with a non-masculine man. So no matter what message is, going at men from society, I think ultimately you look at relationships, right? Men were created a certain way. Women were created a certain way. We were meant to complement each other. You and I are not equal. Right? You cannot bear a child, right? There's things that you can do physically that in my best shape I'll never be able to do, right? But it doesn't mean we have less value, right? Because we're not equal doesn't mean we're less valuable. So, when I was in the military, I'm in the military now in the reserve component, but when I was active duty, there were things that I physically could not do. It didn't hurt my feelings. I didn't get offended, right? I didn't raise my hand and say, hey, we need to change the rules because I'm not able to do this. I just wasn't able to do it. I weighed 110 pounds. There's things I just couldn't do, and I really appreciated the male soldiers that picked up my slack. They did not have to do that. I love my country. I love the military. I love being a part of the military. But in a sense, women being included in the military have also hurt the military. And I certainly acknowledge that. So we look at the speakers here, and we look at their message and what they're saying. it makes sense. And you'd have a hard time refuting anything they're saying. They're, like I said, they're very well educated, they're well researched, and they've got the experience behind them.
And how about the male attendees? Have you gotten the chance to interact with them? Have they come up and said thank you or recognized you?
Oh, definitely. yeah, definitely. And you know, there's some women, I think, who say, well, I wouldn't be around that many men. That would be terrifying. Or how can you stay around these men? Like these men are basically trying to tell you that you're not important, that you're less important. Again, I've been in a part of this movement for about 15 years. Longer than that, I just didn't know it. It just wasn't really organized for me. But that's not who these men are. These are men who want to be respected as men, who respect others as men. They respect women as women, but they just want to live who they are. They just want to be a man in society and not be attacked for that. Some great men here.
What has been your impressions of the conference overall?
Conference has been great. It's been great. The quality of everything has been great. Quality, especially the speakers, I mean the food, the camaraderie. I think it really facilitated an atmosphere of fellowship. And that's a great thing about these conferences, is you get to come in fellowship with like-minded people.
Has anything here surprised you or caught you by surprise in a good way?
Yeah, I think the quality of the women who attended the conference really was surprising to me. And I say that because I'm very outspoken and very direct. It's on social media, in the courtroom, you name it, on interviews. And I get a lot of backlash from the feminazis. I mean, these women who you know, you look at feminism and you say feminism is women are equal, women can do anything they want to do, women can be business owners, they have to rely on a husband to pay their bills, women can have it all. So then I say, well, wait a minute, so I'm a business owner, I'm a woman, I'm a professional, I have a husband, I have a child, my life is crafted along with my husband, it's what works for us. So I'm doing everything you say to do, but why is it I'm a bad guy? But I'm the bad guy because I don't follow their specific tenets. So feminism is full of hypocrisy. And so that was one thing I really enjoyed about the women here, is everyone stood up and they acknowledged that. I mean, there's some women here who say, I love being in this marriage where I'm in a submissive position to my husband. Good for you. Good for you. And that's what works for you, and that's what works for women. And you know, being a single mother should be completely, this should be a last resort, first of all.
Single motherhood.
Single motherhood, yeah. That's a whole other topic we could go down. But being a stay-at-home mother, that's where I wanted to go.
Sure.
What an honorable profession. What an honorable thing to do, to serve your family and serve your children. And you know, going back, I was talking to some of the women, say, if I could go back to age 22, my perception, I would never have gone to law school. I wouldn't have done all of these things that I did that I thought I had to do. I wouldn't have done all that. But it's great to see women in different roles, in different feminine roles that they're proud of. And, you know, they talk about it knowing they're open to attacks, but they talk about it anyway. So.
It seems to me that, it seems to me that women are encouraged to have choice, but they can't make the choice to be a stay-at-home mom. That's the choice they can't. Like, oh no, you have choice, but you just can't choose to do that. Right. Well, it seems like a paradox.
So you have the choice. You can be anything you want to be. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a school teacher, you can be a truck driver. Never is the option given, you can be a stay-at-home wife and you can serve your husband.
And it's okay.
Never. Right, and it's okay. But society says you can do anything you want, but then they have a list of what's acceptable of doing anything you want. But on top of that, then they say you can do anything you want. Just make sure you just don't want to depend on a man.
Right.
Well, that takes completely off the table being a stay-at-home mother. So, you know, society, while they're empowering women away from families, away from marriage. They say wait to have babies. Well, listen, you know, our clocks are ticking. Age 34, I think, is advanced maternal age for a woman.
Right.
So if you want to have a profession, have a business, you're saying, well, I'm going to delay all this until I have all this done. Well, it takes time. And in the meantime, the clock's just ticking away. So that was one sad thing I heard from women yesterday, is that they, you know, one woman said, I didn't wake up until I was 43, and by then it was too late.
God.
She said she got married. You know, another woman said she got married and you know, they tried to have a baby, but a year later, due to some medical things, she had to have her ovaries removed. So, you know, how tragic is that? But what can you do if you're in that position other than come to conferences like this and tell other women, don't wait, don't wait.
When you start talking to women about the situation, and like this 43-year-old women or women who've waited too long, do you experience a lot of grief from women and the things like, I wish I had known then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's you know, there's so much resentment towards the feminist movement.
Oh, wow.
And resentment, I think, towards other women, because women can be nasty.
I know,
Women can
I know.
just be evil and vindictive. You know, when you think of the word vindictive, you go to the dictionary, you don't think there's a picture of a man there. I mean, I think we understand that women are vindictive. We know this. And when you challenge a woman, and I think this is the thing with talking about, you know, before the interview, is being shamed. Feminists are wonderful at shaming you. So, and as, you know, I'm a conservative woman, but like, you know, I tell people, say, listen, I'm a conservative, but I grew up in the trailer park. That trailer park can come out in a New York minute. So they come at me and try to shame me, and I'm right back at them. Like, you cannot be shamed. But that's the thing with conservative women, is I think, you know, mostly they tend to be sort of, you know, they have their conservative views and they keep them to themselves. And if someone comes at them, they would rather just walk away from a fight. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing wrong with the woman that stands in there either and says, you bring this fight to my door, then we're going to have a fight. And so the feminists have been very good at shaming people. They shame men. And if you come back, well, you're just a toxic man, you're a woman, you know, they can say whatever they want to say, but you can't come back and retort what they're saying. So that's another thing, is, you know, we see the product of feminism. We see the product of removing women out of the homes. You look at childhood obesity went up, mental illness went up. And then you take dads out of the homes, and look at the stats from single mothers. It is atrocious. Everything from suicide rates, high school dropouts, substance abuse, teenage pregnancies, teenage suicides. You go down the line. The common denominator is a fatherless home. We think of fatherless, well, my children aren't fatherless, they see their dad every other weekend. Well, being dad deprived, right, there's studies out there, being dad deprived, your children are at risk for becoming these statistics if they see their father or spend less than 35% of their time with their dads. All right, every other weekend doesn't cut it.
Right.
So we have these people like, I mean, I don't know, I mean, their dad was in their life, you know, dad sees them every other weekend. I don't know why they turn to drugs. I don't know why they're running away, because they are dad deprived. And so, of course, the feminists completely will ignore the research. And all the research is on the side of shared parenting, on the side of, you know, including fathers. All the research is there. They won't even acknowledge it exists.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to answer this question. Gosh, I'm really sorry about my throat.
It's okay.
There's a lot of ways to answer this question, but where do you think the resentment and the bitterness comes from? It's so powerful in women, particularly in feminists, both men and women, actually. Where does it come from?
You know, my experience with feminists is they try to be masculine. They try to be something that they're not. And I think that goes back to early on what we were talking about, is women as biological beings. I think it's imprinted on our souls that we are women, that we are created to be a spouse, to be a wife, to be a mother, and we're going against that. So I think there's a lot of internal head wars going on with women. They struggle with themselves because we're going against who we fundamentally are as human beings. As women, we're going against that. And I think that's where you get the resentment. You get a lot of anger, and we like to blame our spouses when something goes wrong. It must be your fault. You know, there's talking with a great guy, a great husband, a great father a couple weeks ago. His wife blames him for everything that's wrong with her. Never mind, she had psychiatric hospitalizations prior to the marriage. Never mind, there were suicide attempts prior to the marriage. Never mind, she had these issues that she brought over. Everything is his fault. And what I find horrible too, and it's detrimental to societies. We think feminism is a mindset for women. Okay? Feminism is not just a mindset for women. Feminism has spilled over into the field of mental health. It's spilled over into the field of law. But let's look at mental health. So women will go to a counselor and say, I don't know what's wrong. I mean, something's missing, which is weird because I have a great job. I make a lot of money. You know, my husband makes a lot of money. I don't know. There's a hole. Well, let's look at your relationship. That's the first place that counselors usually go. Let's look at your relationship, where you don't know the psychology of the counselor. And if you have a feminist, which most of them are, a feminist might convince her, you know what, this relationship is the problem. You're not being fulfilled. When really, it's her. Right? It's the way she's living her life. So you can't trust counselors. You think, well, I'm going to go get professional help. You know, I'm getting a PhD right now, actually, in counseling. And we had a course, because of COVID, we had a Zoom class, and the feminist conversation and the agenda that was coming through the computer, I had to turn my microphone off and challenge everybody there. I said, listen, I'm paying to be here. I'm paying for this education. You're not going to force me to drink this feminist bullshit, right? And it's Liberty University. It was a very it's a Christian.
Even at Liberty.
I was shocked. And here, here's the thing: is I could have gotten reduced tuition coming to the state of Alabama, or free tuition, but I went there for a reason, and I was very disheartened on in that conversation. I will say overall the program has been great. The professors are they will acknowledge the roles of women, biblical roles, and that's why I chose that university. But there was a moment I had to stop and say, I'm not, this is indoctrination. This is why I came here, not to experience this.
Wow.
So it's everywhere.
Wow.
It's everywhere.
It's kind of, it like seeps into the culture. It's like in the water in a way.
Exactly. Exactly. It's everywhere.
So before I met you, I thought your actual last name was Savage, because I would hear over and over again, Melissa Isaak is savage. Melissa Isaak is savage. Like, is Isaak is savage? Is that her last name? Do you enjoy being savage?
I enjoy being who I am, and I think society says, okay, for a woman, you are soft-spoken. Women are a certain way. But then you have feminists who try to be very masculine, but they're very shaming. So I love coming back with that and say, okay, first of all, everyone in this room has a vagina, okay, so don't think you're special. Oh, and by the way, this man you think you're controlling with your vagina, there's a lot of other women out there too. So let's put that aside and let's talk educated, and let's talk statistics, and let's speak research. And they can launch personal attacks, and that's fine, it doesn't faze me, but I love having the ability to come back with intelligence, assertiveness, and I can match them, all right? They want to come at me, I can match them. And I love having that ability, because that's who I am. That's who I am. And so as far as being savage, I think that reputation kind of came up because I say all the time, like, I don't give a shit, okay? It's hard to shame somebody when they don't care. You have this, I don't care about maintaining an image. I don't care about maintaining, I've gotten complaints too. You're an attorney, you should not speak that way. Okay. I'll say whatever the hell I want to say. I still have a first,
you can't tell me. That's not mansplaining to me.
I have a First Amendment right to say what I'm going to say. So, the feminists they've attacked my page. I've gotten bar complaints, things of that nature. And I will say what I want to say. If I can't sit here with the knowledge that I have, not just knowledge, okay? We're not just talking about reading a book and getting experience and reading stats. This is my personal experience as well. Don't tell me women don't lie, because I've sat in the courtroom and I've seen it. Don't tell me women don't make false allegations, because I've seen my mother do it to my father. Don't tell me women don't use their vaginas to manipulate men, because I've seen my mother do it. So, and I was told at a very young age by my mother, right? If you don't have sex with a man, he's going to leave you. What kind of a mother would tell their young, I have two sisters, there's three of us. What kind of a mother would tell their three young daughters, right? And what I call it, I said there's really two classes of women. But what I learned at a very young age is that you can be a warm, wet hole, or you can be a woman who really empowers and really adds to a relationship. You have a man who has a good woman, you can get catapulted. I mean, and that's both of you. And I think what women don't realize is, well, I'm not going to support you, so you can go be something big. Why not? Because he's taking you with him. You can have this great, wonderful life. But learning at a young age where I could be the type of woman that has a warm, wet hole, where I can try to control you. It's a very short term, it doesn't work anyway. But women are taught. I mean, you look at the commercials, you look at the catalogs, all right? Women are a certain way. Women use their sexuality, which they do. Women use their sexuality to try to control men. And so I learned from a very young age, this is not who I want to be. Sex is not something that's going to be the only thing I contribute to a man or to a relationship. But there's a lot of girls out there, especially raised by single mothers, that men contribute financially. That's what they do. Where, I've heard, listened to, I'm sure we all have, but these mothers tell their daughters, girl, you go do your thing. You go do your thing, right? You shake that money maker. So I've learned very early on, this is not who I want to be. It's not who I want to be. And, you can have these experiences, and if you don't share them, it's almost having them in vain. And that's what I like about coming here, is you have these men who say, this is who I was, and this is who I thought I was going to be, and this is what happened as a consequence of that. This is how I've changed, and this is who I am now. And don't make these mistakes that I'm making. So, and that's what we need to do for society. You know, if you think about life is a series of relationships. That's all life is.
Yes.
Life is not about degrees, it's not about piece of papers. You know, you might meet certain people along the way, but life is a series of relationships. And if you are going to put people in categories, especially women, right? Well, I don't want a man unless he makes X amount of dollars. I'm not going to date a man who's less educated than I am. And so, you know, my husband he's a retired fireman, didn't go to college, right? Went through fire school. And, you know, I have 2 master's degrees and a law degree, and I'm getting this PhD now, which means nothing, by the way. Like, nobody ever revere anybody because of formal education. But you wouldn't believe the backlash I got from my acquaintances, my friends, okay, they're not friends, they're acquaintances in the legal field that say, "You really gonna marry him? I mean, he cuts grass on his days off." Yeah. But let me tell you something about him. He may not have a college education, but he can build anything. He can fix anything. I don't have to lift a finger in terms of I've never mowed the grass. Because we've been together, you know, we've been married now almost 11 years. I've never mowed the grass. I take it back, one time it was a 0 turn, I ran over bushes, and he was like, "That's okay, babe, I'll get it." So, but I mean, I have this life that is great. It works for us. And the fact that he doesn't have formal education doesn't make him any less of a person, any less of a man, definitely. In fact, my husband possesses more masculinity than any man I've ever been in the courtroom with. So, but society tells us women, right, that there's certain categories. If you're gonna, a good husband has a good education, a good husband makes a lot of money. Well, and I can tell you folks, right, I've represented a lot of people. It really seems to me the more education that some of these guys have, the more issues that are going on behind the scenes as well, because they've also bought into this societal dictate that says, to be successful, you have to have this. You got to check these boxes on a piece of paper, right? You got to have a good degree, got to make a lot of money, got to have a big house, okay? You got to have a hot wife, you got to have this, you got to have this. And then they're drowning over here. They've got so much debt. Their wife is coked out on Xanax, right? Because she's more worried about how much collagen is in her lips than she is like actually raising her kids, right? The kids are all in therapy, they're all messed up. So, but they check the boxes of what society says that they should be happy. So you got to put all that aside. You really do. You can't listen to what the media is saying. You can't listen to what your own parents are saying sometimes, unfortunately. So we have to do better as parents. We have to do better. And you know, my children are 6 and 8. I have an 8-year-old little girl. I have a 6-year-old little boy. My little boy is the youngest, yellow belt, right, in his karate class. And you know, one thing I tell my little girl too is, here's the, you know, what, I digress for a minute, is I see a lot of things come through my office, of course, being a men's rights attorney. The number of men who are abused by women is astronomical. And the latest statistics are there's actually more men who are victims of domestic violence than women, right? So we have this whole industry that says otherwise. But we have women who think it's okay to, when they're mad, yell and scream and call names. You're just a fucking loser, right? Why did I marry you? You're just a piece. I could do better. I deserve better, right? I deserve to be treated like a queen, right? You do absolutely nothing to justify being treated like a queen. But these are the messages that that we give our daughters. Don't settle. You can do better. Don't rely on a man. So I'm not doing that with my little girl. I don't do that. You know, I openly compliment my husband, or you know, to my children, in front of my children, say, "Babe, Eden, you know, my little girl's name is Eden. Doesn't the grass look great? I mean, your daddy spent about 4 hours, right? On this grass. Yeah. Look at the fence that daddy built. That's great." So I don't want her at all growing up thinking that a man is somebody who wears a suit and tie every day and pays somebody else to cut their grass. Like that's, and if that's her perception one day, then that's fine. But not because I shoved anything down her throat, you know. But that's never my perception of what a masculine man was, because you know, I can tell my husband, I'm not sure, I'd like to have this, and he built it. You know, I said, I want a fireplace. He built a fireplace in our house. You know,
it's amazing.
It is, and it's nice. It's so wonderful. He's not hung up on money. He's not hung up on material things. You know, my husband, you know, he wears cowboy boots and Carhartts, and he loves every minute of it. We have a little farm. That was always his dream, was to have a little farm, and we have that now. And our life works for us, and it's wonderful. And I stay away from the lawyer scene. I don't go drinking with them after hours. I mean, I stay away from all of that because I have a good thing, and I realize that. It's mine to lose, basically. I have a great life, and it's mine to lose. I have it. I've already got it. So society's not going to tell me that I need to be like, you know, Sex and the City, that, you know, I need to starve myself down to nothing and, you know, have indiscriminate sex with, you know, with strangers. It's never been, but a lot of girls, unfortunately, they're watching that and they're saying, man, you know, I'm not going to eat for 3 days. I'll fit in that dress. Okay, well, you go with your starved self. I'm not doing that. I'm not. But so that's the thing, is I think we really need to do a better job as parents, relaying to our children what's important and showing this respect, showing mutual respect, and giving him credit where credit is due. And you know, my husband's retired. He stays home with our kids and runs our little farm, and he loves it. He absolutely loves it. And so, and it works for us. It's not traditional, but it is. It's not traditional, but it is. But it works for us. So,
what would you say to a woman who's considering coming to the 22 convention? Either she's sympathetic to the ideas, or she's challenged by the ideas, but something's calling to her. She just can't quite pull the trigger. What would you say to that woman?
I would say likely if there's something pulling at her, there's something wrong in her life, she's probably explored different avenues and there hasn't been a solution. And we're torn, I think, as women, say, you know, I want to make sure I want to be successful. I want to make sure I can support myself. But I'm not happy doing that, but how do I do it? There's women here that are doing this. There's women here that have figured that out, figured out that balance. And you know, I used to work, it was before my kids were born. I mean, it was nothing for me to be at the office for 70 or 80 hours. It was nothing. And then this last week, you know, I think I went in 2 days. I'm able to juggle this. I'm able to fulfill the needs of my family while still having a profession. And, you know, I've had this conversation with my husband. If my job gets to where it's interfering in my family, right, we're not going to move closer to my job, so it's easier. I will cut back. And I think that's part of me getting a PhD, is where I can now, I mean, I can work from home all the time. And I can't do that as an attorney. But back to your original question, you can come here and you can talk to other women and you can say, look, I haven't figured this out, where somebody can say, you know what, I was exactly where you are 4 years ago, and this is what I did. This is what works for me. And you might have to cut back and take a, you know, cut and pay. Who cares? It's money. It's money. Big picture, money means nothing, because I know a whole lot of people with a lot of money and they're absolutely miserable. So if there's a woman that's on the fence or she's intrigued by this, definitely come and check it out. I think you will be impressed, very impressed.
Where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Well, website is protectingmen.com. We're on social media at Isaak Law Firm, Attorneys for Men, and that's probably the best place to find us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely talking with you. This is Will Spencer from the Renaissance of Men, here for the New 21 Report with Melissa Isaak is a Savage.